Hey everyone, I am Michelle Cooper, owner of Alchemy Accounting and Bookkeeping Services, and this is our weekly Say Yes to the Mess interview. And I am joined by my amazing, incredible friend, Erin. And I'm going to tell you a funny story because this is like the best meeting somebody story ever. But Erin works, she's an incredible artist. If you've ever seen art in my home or my office, it is always by Erin. I'm a huge fangirl of her art. And she is now helping uh, artists and creatives create money from their art and dispel the myth of the starving artist, which absolutely thrills me because I've been telling her she needs to do this work for years. So, welcome, Erin. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I was gonna say, I'm basically just like taking what I took from you and passing it on. You were like, "Why are you poor? Stop it." So,
Right, right. Awesome.
yeah.
So,
Oh,
I will share with you guys our little story of meeting because it's truly phenomenal. It's awesome. Erin and I both played roller derby, so that is our connection point. I was in her town, um, not playing. I had a little store and I sold roller derby girls stuff, and so I had a little table at her team's big event for the weekend. And let's just say this town has a reputation. Um, like like I don't even know how to explain it. Like things get out of control
they do.
in this town fast. It's like, wow, that escalated fast. Um,
That should have been the tagline, like the actual under the logo. Wow, that
yeah.
escalated.
Right? Yeah, like I remember it was actually my first ever roller derby road trip was to it's a town called Armstrong. If you're in BC, you know where it is. And it was my first ever roller derby road trip. And honestly, like you can't go back from there.
Yeah.
Like there were things that I can't even explain and will never be removed from my brain.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, on this particular night, I was peddling my wares, my little cute derby shorts and t-shirts and socks and all that stuff. And I got chatting to this guy, and I'm thinking, this guy's really cool. He's super funny, right? And and he's like making all these jokes. He seems to know everybody, right? And he's telling people, buy her stuff. He's like my best salesman there, kind of thing. And I'm thinking, wow, he's really cool. And who was he, Erin?
He was my partner. Yeah. He actually chased me down and he's like, "I met this girl and you have to find her. She's amazing. I'm bringing her." And he's sitting there with his beer cup and I was like, "What have you done now?" And
Yeah,
then he brought you and I was like, "Oh, thank you. You're a gem." Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And
The
so
rest is history.
Erin and I became really fast friends, and I have had the blessing of watching her grow as an artist and as a person and a business owner. So it's my honor and privilege to call you a friend, and also to see you rise into your power.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I often use you as a story for when I'm trying to tell people like, the basics of like growing bigger as a business, right? Is the irony from Derby is the word pivot, right? I'm always like, you gotta pivot. You gotta learn to pivot. Like if your business is crap, it's okay just because you put years into it, if it's absolute trash, move on, pivot. It doesn't mean you don't do a business. It just means that you're like, well, this idea didn't work. And again, just the idea. So many times from you, I would see you gently, but in your Michelle way, being like, you don't have to be like this. You don't have to suffer. You can enjoy your business. You don't have to be starving. And yeah,
Mhm.
for sure, learning to grow and change your like definitives is the big thing, right? Like even this, I remember specifically saying to you, I really want my art business to grow, but it'd be super cool if I could do that without ever like talking to people or being in interviews or like I'm just gonna hide. And that doesn't really work at all. So
Right?
yeah, learning to get out of your little box helps too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. So, so tell us a little bit about you as an artist, because you are quite recognized and accomplished as an artist. You've had some really big deal things happen. So, what is that? Like, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, I've had some you know what, honestly, I will always attribute it to the beautiful relationships that I have developed, but I've always kind of reached out as an artist and had people kind of take my hand and be like, "I have an idea for you." And I've had amazing opportunities from that. Like I had a girlfriend that it was such a, such a perfect instance of like this is clearly fate where I texted her and I was like, "I need to get my art bigger. I need to do something big." And she texted her friend at the BC Lions Society and was like, "Do you have anything going for my friend Erin?" And she sent a picture and he's like, "Well, today is the closing day for the Terracotta Warriors art project. So if she can do up an entire proposal today, then she could do that." And so I just furiously created these Terracotta Warriors. If you haven't seen them, they're in Vancouver and they're these like 8-foot statues that artists get to paint. And that year it was the Warriors, and I submitted 2, and then they were like, "Yeah, we chose both. So we're sending these Warriors your way." So, things like that, or someone will be my aunt sent me this, "Hey, babe, I'm just thinking of you. The movie Snow White and the Huntsman is looking for artists to go alongside the art." Um, the woman who designed all those costumes, they're like $30,000 costumes. And so at the pop-up gallery for the show, they wanted every like artists around the world to submit art. And so same thing. I was like, "Okay, thanks, Aunt," and just submitted it. And they were like, it always seems to be that very funny last minute thing though. They were like, "We've accepted your art and we need it on a plane in Kelowna tomorrow." And I was like, I haven't even printed it, so that's cool. So I ended up, phoning all these amazing connections I had. I had a friend who was a printer, and I was like, "If you have ever loved me, I need you to get up and get out of bed and print this thing for me." And I ended up flying to Kelowna, and I got my art submitted for that show, which was amazing. She's the designer for like Johnny Depp and like Edward Scissorhands and stuff. So it was a huge deal to me to do that. And
Mhm.
yeah, so it has always been a perfect combination of amazing people and amazing timing, I think.
Yeah, and your latest, like, talk about large project, your giant bear with gold fleck. Like, that's my dream to have that photo or that art in my house. Like, it's
Yeah,
all
he's amazing. Yeah, so he's at the Artists for Conservation Society. He's at their show in Vancouver right now, and then he'll be heading on to maybe. He was supposed to head on to Florida. I'm just not sure what's going on at the border right now, obviously, for
oh right, yeah,
art submissions. So he may head home to me, and in which case I'll send you more photos. But
right.
yeah, he's so big. But he's actually part of. Oh, I got it right this time. I always do the wrong finger. Um, he's part of my passion project that I do with Orphan Wildlife out of New York. So I donate a portion of proceeds to these bears. So,
Awesome.
and it's a fun one for me because they're just an amazing, amazing group.
That's great. That's awesome. So let's talk about that starving artist, that myth of the starving artist, and I call it a myth because it doesn't have to be that way, right?
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit about your like, was that part of your belief that you could never make money from your art, or how did you come into that?
Yeah, I think that that's almost part of the reason I'm so driven with that because I think that you and I have discussed this at length before, but everyone starts with their money story, be it related to art or not, right? So mine came from like I was raised in a really small like trailer court 45 minutes out of a real town, which was a logging town which got hit hard, so my story was based on like never having enough and never being sure and never being secure. And then you enter, in a small logging town, I decided I was going to be a career artist. And you can see how many people would be like, go you! That seems like a great idea. So it wasn't something that people were like, wow, there was always that good, but what are you going to do for like a job? Because,
Mm.
that's a neat idea. You can keep painting. And my mom was so cute. She was always painting like saws and fungi and stuff like you do in a small logging town. But,
I
there
haven't
was
bought one of those saws. My brother has one on his wall. It's like his treasured piece of art. It's like a little cabin on a lake kind
yeah,
of
my
picture.
mom did those. She totally did those. Like,
Oh my
what
god,
was it called?
that's hilarious.
Toll painting? I think toll painting. Yeah. So yeah, I just was, and my mom has always been really, nice about that too. But again, just it's out of her range, right? So she's always like, "You go, honey," but I'm concerned, you know.
Right.
But yeah, so I think too, like just, and even in the last little while, I've joined a lot of like art groups on Facebook, and it is such a constant. Like someone will say, "Hey, here's my piece of art. I was wondering if someone could tell me how to price it." And so there's always someone who's in there who's like, "Art is for passion, and we should not be asking for money for our God-given talents." And I'm like, okay, so if you want to subscribe to that, you think God wants you to not eat or have to do dishes on the side, or, like this, it's such a sad thing to be like, yeah, I was given this talent, but not enough money to live off of.
Right.
Like, why one or the other, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
And
why one or the other? Like, what's that all about?
well, and why should you be given something that is actually an extraordinary talent and not be paid an extraordinary amount? Why should you be paid less,
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I think you get kind of double whammied if you're an artist because you start with your family money story and then you have this lifelong everyone, and it's bullshit, sorry. Um, Everyone has designed this kind of story around this when they're like, "Oh yeah, artists have always been poor," and it's like, the book you gave me actually, "Real Artists Don't Starve," where in the very beginning, he's like, "Just for the record, Michelangelo was making millions, our equivalent to millions." And so we've been told this, and it is just that, a
It's
story.
just a myth,
Yeah.
right? It's like, I don't know, it's what do they call it? Like folklore or whatever,
Yeah.
right? Like it's just something that's been passed down. And it's so interesting, I think, to see how like as humans, like we can like collectively adopt a belief.
Yeah.
That's just how it is, right? Like I always remember David Bear talking to me about what's his name? The guy who did the 4 minute mile, and how like before that people are like that's actually physically impossible for a human being to run um faster than a 4 minute mile. Like
Yeah.
our bodies are not set up to run that fast. We physiologically can't do it. And then that guy did it, right?
Oh, never
Yeah,
mind.
but we collectively adopted this idea or belief, right? And decided that that's just how it is. And then somebody blew past it because they didn't know that's how it is. And then all of a sudden, like now, like everybody started running faster than that, right?
Well,
Like,
what was the theory with cars? It was like back in the day, they were like, the car can only go 35 miles an hour because after that point, your head will explode. And so
yeah,
everyone's like, okay. So it's like, when people are like,
right?
well, that's just the way it is. I'm like, but is it? Like, you know,
I
it,
don't think that's the way anything is. I think
yeah,
um there's always people who will think differently and be those game changers, right? And they will start to bust these myth busters.
yeah,
um, um, and that can, if you're willing and open to looking at it for yourself, that can be an incredible opportunity for growth, right?
yeah, for sure. And like you said, I think that's one of, it comes from a TV show, but I just loved it. But I was watching this TV show, Black Sails, and this one lead pirate, and he had this crazy plan, and he was like, they're going to call us crazy, but when we pull it off, they'll call it inevitable. And
Mm.
it's just that's the person you have to be is the person who's like, it's okay to be crazy. Growing up in a small logging town, being like, I'm going to be a rich artist, not the most sane thing to be going around telling people, especially in a town where it was
Yeah.
struggling with status quo. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be a wealthy artist was right off the hop, me being crazy. And then just, like you said, I've gone through quite a few businesses. I think most successful entrepreneurs have that, I tried this. Now I tried this. And you either call it a failure and you're like, well, I tried, or you say, oh, I tweak and find the thing that works for you.
Pivot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally, totally. Like I always tell people, like this isn't where I sit now. Isn't like I wasn't, haven't always been here. Didn't sit here. Like there's been a lot of things that have happened, um, and at times they look like failure, but they've actually. I've learned so much, and I'm now in a position to support people so much better from having been through it myself.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely. I mean, like you said, you and I, when we met, we both had those roller derby businesses. They weren't
Yeah.
great. Yeah. But they
Roller
had a
derby
purpose.
businesses, don't get into that market, okay?
Prove it.
So, it's a limited market. Let's just call it
Oh,
that.
goodness.
Super fun,
So
but
fun. Yeah.
has its limitations. Um, awesome. So what is like so if somebody is, like they're an artist, they're a creative, they're creating something, maybe they have an Etsy store or I don't know what people do. Um, what's like 2 things, let's say 2 things that they can do that will, help them actually, uh, maybe put their business out there more or, change the trajectory of where they're going right now?
Well, one of the course that I'm actually promoting right now that I'm doing, what designed based on the fact that I was at the time an artist who was starting to grow. My business was starting to grow, but it's like I kept kind of hitting a wall, and the wall wasn't like I'm not making enough money. It was I have these two little humans. I have this farm. I have this life. I've reached my max on time, kind of thing. And so when I found print on demand, I realized that I could basically, have my original art and that kind of thing and sell that for a higher ticket item, but I
Right?
could sort of have somebody else take care of all the other printing. So I have a full-on sock business now based on like just making fun and funny, like high-end, but also witty sock designs. And somebody else takes care of all the printing and all the shipping and all the grunt work of it. And I just get to make the art, which is like an artist's ideal, right? Like if you ask an artist what they want to do, I just want to make the art.
Mm.
So now I have someone who does the social media and I have someone who does, and I've learned to sort of walk away from that part of my business. And so when I was at that point, just with the one business with Erin Foggoa Creative, where I was like, this is it. When I moved into doing print on demand, now I'm actually expanding into this will be my fourth business. We're unloading like this week. And so I was able to free up so much of my time on things that are tasks that you don't need to do, kind of thing as an artist, but able to still get a reach where, like you said, people know who I am, know who my art is because it's on different products, it's available in different places. And I'm going to be moving into the wholesale market and stuff like that as well this month. So,
Oh, wow. That's
yeah,
exciting.
so it's an amazing way to kind of focus on what you're great at
Yeah.
and let somebody else take care of what they're great at, which is what ideal business is about, is not being the everything. Women especially, I find, are like we have that mentality of trying to do every single thing ourselves, and
Yeah.
that's such a struggle way to get through business.
Well, yeah, so talking about doing everything yourself, when you came to me and said, "My numbers are a shit show. Please help me."
I would like to clarify this as well and say not only were my numbers a shit show, but when I came to her, that cute guy with the Dixie cup who was like, "I found Michelle," he had a bag this big, like a freaking tennis bag, and he was like, "This is my taxes for the last." And so that is the number one. That's actually part of my course is I send people to you because I really like my biggest focus in business is not to do things like when I think of, and most artists are like this, which is why I stress that so hard, is that you're trying to do something yourself, but literally when tax time came, I would be like, okay, oh, and I would get hot sweats because I'm crap at numbers and I'm not organized. And I was like, there has to be a way around this. And yes, it's hiring someone. It's hiring someone who's really, really great at that instead of trying to do it yourself and suffering. And
Yeah.
so now when I talk to Joe Schmo government agency guy and I'm like, how am I doing? He's like, you're great. Michelle's great. It's all great. And I'm like, oh, that's so relieving, right? Your numbers is, it's a scary thing if you're like trying to do something that you are so very out of your zone for,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
I always say to people, I actually said this in a meeting yesterday. I'm not a words gal, I'm a numbers gal. So I'm sorry if I'm not reading this correctly, because sometimes like words, it just doesn't make sense to me. And so I'm like, I don't understand what I'm looking at. And
Yeah,
so I can understand when people look at numbers and they're like, I don't know what this means, right?
that's the
Because
flip for me, and because of your team, like, you've hired such an amazing team, and I rave about them all the time because I will call and be like, "Hi, a really dumb question. This person asked me about this, and they're like, "It's okay, Erin, I got this." I'm like, "Oh, fantastic, and goodbye." Like, because it is like to me, it's like a hot flashy thing. Like I start looking at numbers, or I get a call from the government, and they're asking me for something, and I'm like, "I'm gonna die." And thankfully, I just get to be like, "Oh no, here, talk to them." Yeah, it's
yeah,
huge.
yeah. And so obviously provided you with some order, right? You were able to take that giant tennis bag of paper and we got you caught up. Um, and now you're like you're
We
on.
also, for the record, went from that year, they had sent us a letter saying we owed them a, like, weeping amount of money, and then you were like, "No, actually, you get a great return." We were like
That is a situation that happens over and over and over again. Like, I can't even count the number of times where because the government, whether you're in Canada or the United States, they will just auto assess if you don't file,
Yeah,
right? They'll just go like, "Ah, this is what you've owed for the last couple of years, so we're gonna say this is what you owe plus," right? Because they wanna put in a buffer to protect
yeah,
themselves, right? And then you get a bill for like $100,000 and you're like, "What?"
yeah, I'm gonna lose
Right?
my house, yeah.
And so that right, like, it forces you to file, and the number of times where when we pull together the filing, the client gets a refund is like there's so many I could count on.
Yeah,
Like, so many. I remember, actually helping a friend with this, like, just at the very beginning stages of alchemy, and she hadn't filed taxes for like 6 years, one of
yeah,
my roller derby teammates, right? And she was like having like hot flashes all the time and like was thinking she was gonna like go to jail or something. And she ended up getting $38,000 back
ow,
in tax and child tax benefit.
yeah.
So she's like, I'm in Mexico, right? Because we're roller derby girls and we'll just do whatever.
We
Like
make
nobody
spreadsheets for
cares.
losing our money, yeah.
So yeah, that was really great. And it's great to be able to help people do stuff like that. And so how
Well,
do you feel about your numbers now? How do you feel about money
amazing.
now?
Well, I think too, like, that's one of the things I'm trying so hard to focus on in the course is I remember when you and I were very first, so, like you said, I come at it from a place where I understand them. I'm not like, "No, no, I'm like a silver spoon kid, and I totally don't know what it's like to suffer." Um, Someone comes to me and they're like, "Well, I can't afford accounting, and I can't afford this," and I'm like, "You technically can't afford not," because for me, that amount of time, and that's how I balance it, right? I do have a budget because I did learn to be an adult, and I say to myself, like, if I spend this time doing this work, then that's how much time I'm losing at 150 bucks an hour being an artist. I don't get to do that because I have to, and you will probably do this number thing for me in about 2 hours that will take me 12 and I'll cry. So it's like,
Right.
well, let's do some math here.
Right.
I don't want to cry.
Just
So
do the math. Just do the math. Do the math.
yeah, it's simple.
That's awesome.
So
That's
yeah, and my numbers are amazing. I tupled my income this month, which was
yeah. You've
awesome.
got
Yeah.
the course, so you're helping creatives actually have a business out of their artistic endeavors, right?
Yes, and teaching them, like, everything, it's kinda top down, like, I did wanna teach them print on demand, but I'm putting a heavy emphasis on the idea of money mindset, because you can be as successful as you want, but if you're just blocking yourself, it's a really hard thing to get around, and I went through everything from accounting to managing your business, to hiring a social media person, to hiring someone to do some of this back end work for you so that you can continue to create. Because
Right.
it's basically just step by step. I was like, I'm going to teach them how to walk what I walked, right? Like,
Totally. Tot
so I just fast tracked them like 3 businesses in 10 years. So
yeah.
good for them. Yeah.
Right? And that's what I always say, like, working with somebody like yourself, like, the fee like, think of the fee of the course as, like, your, like, shortcut ticket. It's like
Yeah.
you're getting on the I don't know, the bullet train to where what took Aaron, say, 3 years is gonna take you 3 months, kinda.
Yeah.
So
Well, and just the idea of changing that mindset around. You were the one who first taught me that because I remember you telling me you invested in a coach. When you told me what you paid, I was like, "What?" And then I was like, "No, you have to, like, you're investing in your business." So I started small, right? I invested in a bookkeeper, and then I invested in a business coach, and then I invested in a tapping coach, and I've done all these steps because you're saying, "I believe in myself and my business."
yeah,
And if you hold back and keep that money, you're saying, "I don't believe in myself and my business." And you
yeah,
have to move forward.
yeah, yeah, such a good point for people to hear, right? Like, I always say I had a call, like a referral partner call with a, financial advisor, right? And he was like, "So, Michelle, do you have RSPs?" And I'm like, "No, and don't try to sell me any because I don't want RSPs. My retirement is my business.
Yeah,
I am my retirement.
yeah,
So everything I have goes into my business and into me,
yeah.
and that's my future." And he was like, "Oh, that's an interesting way to look at that." I'm like, "Okay,
That's a
sure."
dinosaur way to look at things.
Yeah,
So
I personally don't believe RSPs are the solution for people because I have clients right now who are drawing on their RSPs and they're ending up paying tax at a time of their life where they don't have the money to pay
yeah.
the tax, right? And so I don't see it as the solution. So
Well,
I'm glad you said that.
yeah, and I think, like you said, it's about redefining, the same as we were talking about being rebellious and not going by what is or what was, etc. Like in my parents' generation, they were just told that you just kept this consistent job. And now those awesome people who did what they were told are paying the price at it at a later date, like you say, with the RSPs and stuff, and just getting taxed and being like, this isn't enough to live off and that kind of thing. So you have to kind of pave your own way with investments. Like for me, again, most of the people that I look up to as business people are like, no, that's exactly right. But for me, I'm like, I'm starting 5 businesses because I can always have an influx, right?
Totally.
Yeah,
Revenue diversification
exactly.
101, right? Yeah, that's so good, so good. And so besides your course, there's other ways people can work with you as well, right? Like, I've referred you out for, like, book covers and, like, custom art pieces. Oh, yeah, last weekend, I sent you a message that said, "Hey, if I had 3 words and I wanted a piece of art, how much would that" and you're like, "I think I need more information than that."
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
give me more details.
right?
Yeah.
But so you do other work with people, right?
Yeah, I've sort of turned it into jack of all arts. So with only select clients, I'll be taking on branding and stuff like that as well. So I try and narrow that down to creatives and people who are doing cool independent stuff like that. Um, yeah, I've designed book covers. I can kind of do anything as long as it's artistic wise. And then I have Fox and Fogo, which is my sock company, Erin Foggoa Creative, which is where you buy art from me. We're going to be launching Tri Vibe Collective, which is a partnership where we're making like a high vibe clothing company,
I
just with
love
the intention of raising the collective and being positive.
I
And
can't
yeah,
wait to buy those clothes
awesome.
'cause there's no clothes out there to buy. Like, there's crap. Like,
Yeah, it's brutal for
yeah,
sure.
awesome.
Yeah,
Good. Well, thank you so much for today and taking this time. I hope that, that this interview inspires some people. I know, there's lots of people who kind of follow me in one way or another who are creative and who are artists, and they're stuck in, a lack mindset and a poverty mindset. The starving artist myth is something that I personally wish would just go away.
yeah,
Like I said to you, like, you need to go teach at like Emily Carr and stuff like that. Like, yeah. Like, yeah, we've got to get in earlier in the process to access kids, right?
yeah,
The artistic programs for kids, there needs to be a component in there that helps them understand their value and their worth, and that it's appropriate to charge money for what
yeah.
they're doing,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Well, and that is, like on a small scale, I'm doing it, and I do hope to expand that. I'm going to be doing more courses like that just because it is such a passion to me. I'll see someone be like an amazing, talented piece, and they'll be like, "How much do you think I would get for this?" And stop asking people that for one thing, because they're going to give you answers you don't like, and someone will be like, "Well, like $15," and I'm like, "No, no, yeah,
That's across the board, right? Like, when people say like, "Oh, how would you help me price this?" or "How much should I charge for this?" I always tell people, like, never ask somebody that, because you are then pricing it based on that person's money mindset and their upper limit
yeah,
to me, right? So it's based on what they would pay for that kind of thing, and they might not value that, right? So um it's really like, you got to tap into what is something worth to you,
yeah." Or
right?
even away from you, like, if that's what I always say to people is, I got this from one of my business coaches. He was like, "Stop paying with your wallet. Stop pricing with your wallet," right? Because you
Yeah,
may be a brand new artist, or you may be, like, not seen by the world, but if you can make something that someone who has a ton of money, but needs, like, something that speaks to their soul, and
right,
it's worth $10,000 to them, you shouldn't be selling it for 200.
right.
Like, just because you can only afford 200, that's not who you're selling to. So,
Totally. Yeah,
yeah.
totally. Yeah. So thank you so much. I
Yeah.
really appreciate taking the time, and I I can only imagine the content that you're delivering through the course. I encourage everybody to find Erin. Where can they find you?
I'm easiest to find on Facebook, but also, there'll be a link probably below here, I'm thinking. There's
Right.
the link to the course, and also on erinfoggocreative.com
Oh, yeah.
is
I think I can put this. Ah, hang on. I don't know. Oh, here it is. I got it. I'm gonna put it in the comments. Here's Erin's website. Okay, so I put it in the comments. And the link to her course is in the comments as well, and obviously at the banner below. So if you or you know somebody who is a creative, and is struggling to have a business, right? To really understand the business component of creativity, Erin is your gal for sure.
yeah, awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks so
All
much.
right. Thanks, everyone. I encourage you all to say yes to the mess of whatever is going on in your business. Clean up your financial house. And of course, everybody at Alchemy is just sitting here waiting to answer your email and say, yay, let's do work together.
And if you happen to have a tennis bag in your house full of your chakras, go see this woman, please.
Right. Oh
She
my
won't judge you. She might laugh a little bit, but she will
gosh,
help you.
that's it. Awesome. All right. See you guys later.